नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. And to chapter 8, text 10. स चापि यत्र पुरुषो विश्वस्थित्युपवाप्ययः मुक्त्वात्ममायां मायेशः शेते सर्वगुहाशयः.
Please also explain the personality of Godhead who lies in every heart as the Supersoul and as the Lord of all energies, but is untouched by his external energy.
Text 11. पुरुषावयवैर्लोकः सपालः पूर्वकल्पितः लोकैर्मुष्यावयवः सपालैरिति शुश्रुम.
O learned Brahmana, it was formerly explained that all the planets of the universe with their respective governors are situated in the different parts of the gigantic body of the Virat Purusha. I have also heard that the different planetary systems are supposed to be in the gigantic body of the Virat Purusha. But what is their actual position? Will you please explain that?
Text 12. यावान् कल्पो विकल्पो वा यथा कालोऽनुमीयते भूतभव्यभवच्छब्द आयुर्मानं च यत्सतः.
Also, please explain the duration of time between creation and annihilation, and that of other subsidiary creations, as well as the nature of time, indicated by the sound of past, present, and future. Also, please explain the duration and measurement of life of the different living beings known as the demigods, the human beings, etc., in different planets of the universe.
Text 13. कालस्यानुगतिर्यातु लक्ष्यते बृहत्यपि यावत्यः कर्मगतयो यादृश्चिद्वीच सत्तम.
O purest of the Brahmanas, please also explain the cause of the different durations of time, both short and long, as well as the beginning of time following the course of action.
Text 14. Yasmin karma samavayo yatha yenopagruhyate gunanam guninam chaiva parinamam bipsatam.
Then again, kindly describe how the proportionate accumulation of the reactions resulting from the different modes of material nature act upon the desiring living being, promoting or degrading him among the different species of life, beginning from the demigods down to the most insignificant creatures.
Text 15. Bhupatalakakubhyovam grahan shatra bubrutam Saritsumudra Dvipanam Sambhavaschaitadokasam.
O best of the Brahmanas, please also describe how the creation of the globes throughout the universe, the four directions of the heavens, the sky, the planets, the stars, the mountains, the rivers, the seas, and the islands, as well as their different kinds of inhabitants, take place.
Text 16. Pramanamandakoshasya Bhayabhyantarabhedatah Mahatam Chanucharitam Varnashrama Vinishchayah.
Also, please describe the inner and outer space of the universe by specific divisions, as well as the character and activities of the great souls, and also the characteristics of the different classifications of the castes and orders of social life.
6:17. Yugani Yugamanam Cha Dharmo Yascha Yuge Yuge Avataраनुचरितं यदाश्चर्यतमं हरेः.
Please also explain all the different ages and the duration of the creation, and also the duration of such ages. Also tell me about the different activities of the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages.
Text 18. नृणां साधारणो धर्मः सविशेषश्च यादृशः श्रेणीनां राजर्षीणां च धर्मः कृच्छेषु जीवताम्.
Please also explain what may generally be the common religious affiliations of human society, as well as their specific occupational duties in religion, the classification of the social orders, as well as the administrative royal orders, and the religious principles for one who may be in distress.
Text 19. तत्त्वानां परिसङ्ख्यानं लक्षणं हेतुलक्षणं पुरुषाराधनविधिर्योगस् आध्यात्मिकस्य च.
Kindly explain all about the elementary principles of creation, the number of such elementary principles, their causes and their development, and also the process of devotional service and the method of mystic powers.
Text 20. योगेश्वरेश्वर्यगतिर्लिङ्गं sorry योगेश्वरेश्वर्यगतिर्लिङ्गं भस्तु योगिनां वेदोपवेदधर्माणाम् इतिहासपुराणयोः.
What are the opulences of the great mystics, and what is their ultimate realization? How does the perfect mystic become detached from the subtle astral body? What is the basic knowledge of the Vedic literatures, including the branches of history and the supplementary Puranas?
Text 21. सम्प्लवः सर्वभूतानां विक्रमः प्रतिसङ्क्रमः इष्टापूर्तस्य काम्यानां त्रिवर्गस्य च यो विधिः.
Please explain unto me how the living beings are generated, how they are maintained, and how they are annihilated. Tell me also of the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotional service unto the Lord. What are the Vedic rituals and injunctions of the supplementary Vedic rites? And what are the procedures of religion, economic development, and sense gratification?
Text 22. यो वानुशायिनां सर्गः शाषण्डस्य च सम्भवः आत्मनो बन्धमोक्षौ च व्यवस्थानं स्वरूपतः.
Please also explain how, merged in the body of the Lord, living beings are created and how the infidels appear in the world. Also, please explain how the unconditioned living entities exist.
Text 23. यथात्मतन्त्रो भगवान् विक्रीडत्यात्ममायया विसृज्य वा यथा मायाम् उदास्ते साक्षिवद्विभुः.
The independent personality of Godhead enjoys his pastimes by his internal potency, and at the time of annihilation gives them up to the external potency, and he remains a witness to it all.
Text 24. सर्वमेतच्च भगवन् पृच्छतो मेऽनुपूर्वशः तत्त्वतोऽर्हस्युदाहर्तुं प्रपन्नाय महामुने.
O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection.
Text 25. अत्र प्रमाणं हि भवान् परमेष्ठि यथात्मपुः अपरे चानुतिष्ठन्ति पूर्वेषां पूर्वजैः कृतम्.
O great sage, you are as good as Brahma, the original living being. Others follow custom only, as followed by the previous philosophical speculators.
Text 26. न मे सवः परायन्ति ब्रह्मन्नन्दशनादमि पिबतोच्युतपीयूषं तद्वाक्याद्धिविनिः श्रुतम्.
O learned Brahmana, because of my drinking the nectar of the message of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting.
Text 27. Suta uvacha sa upamantrito radnya kathayamiti satpatehe brahmarato brusham prito vishnuratena sansadi.
Sutta Goswami said, thus Sukadev Goswami, being invited by Maharaj Parikshit to speak on topics of the Lord Sri Krishna with the devotees, was very much pleased.
Text 28. Praha bhagavatam nama puranam brahma sammitam brahmane bhagavat proktam brahma kalpa upagate.
He began to reply to the inquiries of Maharaj Parikshit by saying that the science of the personality of Godhead was spoken first by the Lord himself to Brahma when he was first born. Srimad Bhagavatam is a supplementary Vedic literature, and it is just in pursuance of the Vedas.
Text 29. Yadyat parikshudrupshabaha pandunaman anupruchati anupurvena tatsarvam akyatum upachakrame.
He also prepared himself to reply to all that King Parikshit had inquired from him. Maharaj Parikshit was the best in the dynasty of the Pandus, and thus he was able to ask the right questions from the right person. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Haribol.
Thank you, Mataji, for reciting. Thank you very much. Jyoti Mataji, could you share the screen for today's verses, please? Thank you. So we're doing verses 18 to 20. Thank you so much. Could we also have the purport, please? Thank you. Thank you so much, Jyoti Mataji. So, yeah, without any further waiting, we'll just start straight away. So verses 18 to 20, we will be covering. Verse 19 does not have any purport. 18 and 20 has purports. So let's start. Text 18. Mrinam sadharano dharmaha shavisheshascha yadrashaha shreninam rajashinam cha dharma krishetu jivatam. Translation. Please also explain what may generally be the common religious affiliations of human society, as well as their specific occupational duties in religion, the classification of the social orders, as well as the administrative royal orders, and the religious principles for one who may be in distress. Purport. The common religion of all classes of human beings, regardless of whosoever and whatsoever one may be, is devotional service. Even the animals may be included in devotional service to the Lord. And the best example is set by Sri Vrajrangji or Hanuman, the great devotee of Lord Sri Ram. As we have already discussed, even the aborigines and cannibals can also be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord if they happen to be under the guidance of a genuine devotee of the Lord. In the Skanda Purana, there is a narration that a hunter in the jungle became the most enlightened devotee of the Lord by the guidance of Sri Narad Muni. Therefore, devotional service to the Lord can be equally shared by every living being. Religious affiliation in terms of different countries and cultural circumstances is obviously not the common religion of the human being. Rather, the basic principle is devotional service. Even if a particular type of religious principle does not recognize the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the followers still have to obey the disciplinary principles laid down by a particular leader. Such a leader of a religious sect is never the supreme leader, because such a circumstantial leader comes to the position of leadership after undergoing some penance. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not, however, require to be under disciplinary action to become leader, as we see in the activities of Lord Krishna. The occupational duties of the caste and the orders of society following the principles of livelihood also depend on the principle of devotional service. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that a person can achieve the highest perfection of life simply by awarding the results of his occupational duty unto the devotional service of the Lord. People following the principles of devotional service to the Lord can never be put into difficulty, and thus there cannot be any question of apad dharma or religion in distress. As will be explained in this book by the greatest authority, Srila Sukadev Goswami, there is no religion save and except the devotional service of the Lord, though this may be presented in different forms. Text 18. Text 19, sorry. I'll just read all the text and then we'll start discussing. I'll just read the translation and purport because we've just literally done Sanskrit and translation also, but I'll read only the English. Text 19. Kindly explain all about the elementary principles of creation, the number of such elementary principles, their causes and their development, and also the process of devotional service and the method of mystic powers. Text 20. Translation and purport. What are the opulences of the great mystics and what is their ultimate realization? How does the perfect mystic become detached from the subtle astral body? What is the basic knowledge of the Vedic literatures, including the branches of history and the supplementary Puranas? Purport. The Yogeshwara, or the master of mystic powers, exhibit eight kinds of wonders of perfection by becoming smaller than the atom or lighter than a feather, getting anything and everything he desires, going anywhere and everywhere he likes, creating even a planet in the sky, etc. There are many Yogeshwaras having different proficiencies in these wonderful powers, and the topmost of all of them is Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the greatest yogi, and he can perform such wonderful things far beyond the ordinary living beings. The devotees of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, do not directly practice the process of mystic powers, but by the grace of the Lord, his devotee can defeat even a great Yogeshwara like Durvasha Muni, who picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish and wanted to show the wonderful achievements of his mystic powers. Maharaj Ambarish was a pure devotee of the Lord, and thus, without any effort on his part, the Lord saved him from the wrath of Yogeshwar Durvasha Muni, and the latter was obliged to beg pardon from the king. Similarly, at the time of Draupadi's precarious position when she was attacked by the Kurus, who wanted to see her naked in the open assembly of the royal order, the Lord saved her from being stripped by supplying an unlimited length of sari to cover her. And Draupadi knew nothing of mystic powers. Therefore, the devotees are also Yogeshwaras by the unlimited power of the Lord, just as a child is powerful by the strength of the parents. They do not try to protect themselves by any artificial means, but are saved by the mercy of the parents. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from the learned Brahmana Sukadev Goswami about the ultimate destination of such great mystics, or how they attain such extraordinary powers by their own efforts or by the grace of the Lord. He inquired also about their detachment from the subtle and gross material bodies. He inquired also about the purports of the Vedic knowledge. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, the whole purport of all the Vedas is to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus become a transcendental loving servant of the Lord. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu-sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhayeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vrstaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshadarine. Nama Om Vishnu. Okay, so we are continuing to read from this chapter, which is all questions that Maharaj Parikshit is asking Sukadev Goswami. So, if you see, the setting for Srimad Bhagavatam is similar to the setting for Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is asking questions to the Lord. And here you can see that Maharaj Parikshit is asking questions to Sukadev Goswami. And from both these great scriptures, actually, these wonderful and great devotees are asking questions for our benefit. Because we know that Arjuna is an exalted devotee, he wouldn't have any doubts, but these devotees are doing all this for our benefit. So we can learn so much from these conversations. So in this particular verse, as we can see, the different types of dharma is being discussed. There are three types of dharma that is being discussed here. The first one is sadharan. Sadharan, which is, Prabhupada gives the English translation as general. So sadharan dharma. And then what is being discussed is the vishesha. In the second line of the verse, it says savishesha. So vishesha dharma. What is the vishesha dharma? And then finally, what is being asked is the occupational duty. Dharma as in the occupational duty. And the apad dharma. So three actually main is dharma is translated as occupational duty. The different kinds of dharmas being discussed are the sadharan, vishesh and apad. Right? You will notice that this subject of dharma, this topic of dharma is repeated again and again in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is not the first verse where dharma is being discussed. Previously in Canto 1, chapter 18, verse 16, we'll refer to that. Dharma is being discussed. And in the ongoing chapters also, dharma will be discussed because dharma is actually a very strong and loaded term in our the Vedic world and Vedic system. So what actually do you think, what does dharma mean? Would anybody like to share their understanding of dharma? What do you understand by dharma? Anybody would like to share?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please can accept my humble obeisances, O good Srila Prabhupada. Dharma
Hare
is
Krishna.
it our prescribed duty, Mataji?
Yes. So one definition of dharma is it is our prescribed duty. The other understanding of dharma is actually the innate quality. Like, for example, and Prabhupada gives this example very often, he says the innate quality of a salt is to be salty. The innate quality of water is to be liquid. Yes, we can see water in the solid form when we freeze it, but as soon as you just leave it in a normal environment, it'll turn into liquid because that is the innate quality. And likewise, then in our scriptures, we read and we learn from our acharyas that the innate quality or the innate nature of the soul is actually to be kind-hearted, to be happy, to love every other living entity, because we are part and parcel of Krishna. And that is the innate nature of Krishna. So as souls, that is our nature as well. So dharma, if you think about it, it actually originates from the root word, Sanskrit word, which is dhri, right? So from dhri comes dharma. And dhri also is the root word for two other words. One is dhara and dhatri. And both of these actually, dhara means earth. But when we are talking about earth, we're talking in terms of Mother Earth. Now, what is Mother Earth doing? Mother Earth is carrying the load and weight of all of us. And we've seen and we've read in the Shastras that how when, the sinful activities increases, the load, the weight on Mother Earth increases as well. And she's not able to tolerate and bear it, but she still does, right? Like how Dhatri signifies the mother, right? It is another word for mother. Dhatri meaning the one who gives birth. So the mother also is bearing the burden of love, for her child. She's carrying the child for 9 months. She carries that weight, but then she carries, for her entire life, her whole life actually revolves around the child, right? So likewise, dharma, which originates from dhri, signifies the most important meaning of dharma, which is to uphold something that is really, really great or really important. So like upholding the principles, upholding the regulations, upholding the quality. So in one sense, dharma actually is quite vast, if you think about it. Because dharma also can refer at times to the way you use dharma could refer to traditions, values, culture. So it is quite universal. However, at the same time, dharma can also be very, very personal. Like we just spoke about, when you talk about the salt or water, it is very personal. Likewise, dharma can be applied to each and every individual also, case by case, if you see. I was wondering, we've heard this term dharma many times when we use it quite regularly. Would any of you remember any terms where we've used dharma before? Like when we are studying scriptures, we hear, anything related, any terms that you've used about dharma? If anybody would like to share.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. My humble
Yes.
obeisances over to Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
Mataji, I was in fact reading yesterday and in the Bhagavad Gita, and it was talking about Sanatan Dharma.
Sanatan Dharma, yes. Any other dharma that anybody's read or heard? Sorry?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes. For 1 minute, Indulekha Mataji. Shobhana Mataji said something. Was it you, Shobhana Mataji? I heard something.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Swadharma. Mataji.
Swadharma as in your own dharma. Yes. Sanatan Dharma is one thing. Swadharma is yes. Indulekha Mataji.
In Bhagavad Gita also it says dharmando sarva dharman parityaja mamekam saranam vraja. I don't know if it applies to the text you're talking about.
Well, in that verse, Krishna is telling you to abandon all kinds of religions. So he's talking about all, but when we are talking about specific religions, I'll give you some examples. I'm sure you've heard these terms, but it doesn't come straight away. So we talk about Varnashram Dharma, correct? We talk about Grihastha Dharma. We talk about Pati Dharma, Stri Dharma, Potra Dharma, which like a son, what is the dharma of a son? So there are so many various dharmas that we are talking about, if you think about it, it includes so many different things, right? So when we're talking about, so here today we're discussing 3 kinds, right? So when we talk about Vishesh Dharma, when you hear the term Vishesh means special, right? Means special. Now, if you ask yourselves, all of us, would we like to be in a special category or in a general category? What would you like to be in? Special or general? Inherently, what immediately comes to mind?
Special.
Special. All of us want to be in the special category, especially like, let's say you're, you're in India, or let's say even here for Janmashtami. Janmashtami is coming up very soon, and you're standing in the queue for darshan, and the queue is hours long, which it normally is. And then you see there is like a different kind of a category for senior citizens, or, maybe mothers with babies or something like that. And you think, oh, I wish I was, I was in that special category. So, we want to be in the special category many times, right? So that is, of course, that when you talk about that, that is your Vishesh Dharma, right? Now, I just want to talk about in Vishesh Dharma. When we're talking about Vishesh Dharma, means it is special, means it is actually where you have your specific roles. Let's say that right now my Vishesh Dharma is the role of a mother, a wife. These are my Vishesh Dharma. So I have to fulfill my rules and responsibilities of this Vishesh Dharma that I am carrying out. So, however, when I am carrying out my Vishesh Dharma, right, I need to be kind of anchored by certain rules and regulations, so that while carrying out my Vishesh Dharma, I do not forget or go against my Sadharan Dharma. If you think about the term Sadharan, it means general. But when you understand it in relation to this particular verse, what Prabhupada is saying is that the common religion, that means the Sadharan religion for all classes of human beings, regardless of whosoever and whatsoever one may be, is devotional service, right? So the idea is that while I am fulfilling my Vishesh Dharma as I'm sorry, there's some sound. If I could just request everybody to keep yourselves muted, please. Thank you. Yes, so while I am fulfilling my Vishesh Dharma in whatever role that I may be in, wife, husband, grihastha, brahmachari, sannyasi, king, son, daughter, whatever it is, I should at the same time have my duties, responsibilities centered in such a way where I am not dismissing or not going against the Sadharan Dharma, which is devotional service. So the idea is that while I am performing my day-to-day responsibilities, I try and bring Krishna in the center and keep Krishna in the center. So that way I am fulfilling my Sadharan Dharma, which is to perform devotional service, right? So I want to ask you one question. We are talking about having like an anchor, like something which holds you, or where you are kind of bound, in a circumference of some rules and regulations. So my question to you is, do you think anchor is good or bad? What do you think? Do you think anchor is good or bad? Sorry, I'd like to have a little interactive session. So, yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, my humble obeisance. I
Yes.
think anchor is good, in my opinion.
Okay, anchor is good. Anybody else? Any other opinion?
Hare Krishna Mataji. I think anchor is good. It keeps you under check. And
Okay.
it keeps you, boundaries are there. You have to act within those boundaries.
Very good. Yes, anchor is meant for that. Anchor is good. Now, I'm going to tell you a story, very short story, right? And then I will ask you your opinion again about the anchor. So there is a story with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj says, and he talks about this, maybe you've heard the story. He talks about this team of wedding party. There's this wedding party Prabhus who want to cross the river, and they are in a rush because they have to reach the place of the wedding the next morning. So they go to this boatman and they request him that you need to really, like, it's night, it's late, it's dark, we understand, we'll pay you extra, but you need to take us across the river. And they get on the boat, and the boatman is rowing the entire night, he's rowing. And when wake up in the morning and the sun rises and there's light, they realize that they are actually at the same place. Because what has happened is the boatman forgot to lift the anchor. Right? He completely forgot to lift the anchor. So now my question is anchor good or bad?
In this case, it's bad, Mataji.
So what this story or what this example is leading to is, while we are performing our Vishesha Dharma, we are bound by rules and regulations. So we have the anchor, but if that anchor is holding us back from performing our Sanatan or our Sadharan Dharma, which is performing devotional service, then we need to be careful about how much that anchor is pulling us down or holding us back. Because at the end of the day, what Krishna is saying is that in whatever you do, any activities, that the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 27, Krishna says, Yat karosi yad asnasi yad juhasi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat gurusva mad arpanam. So, if while performing our Vishesh Dharma, if we don't have that realization that somewhere I am actually missing the essence of not connecting my Dharma with Krishna, with devotional service, then somewhere things are going wrong, right? However, if we perform our Vishesh Dharma by keeping Krishna in the center, it becomes Parodharma, right? And our responsibility is at all times, whatever we do, we should be performing devotional service to the Lord Krishna, and that should be unalloyed and uninterrupted, so constantly, right? That's what pleases the Lord. Okay, so that's one understanding of Vishesh Dharma. We've also kind of touched already on Sadharan Dharma. Sadharan Dharma is that we have to perform devotional service. Now, in the 7th canto, there is a conversation between Narad Muni and Yudhishthira Maharaj. And at that time, Narad Muni actually lists down 30 qualities of a human being in order for him to be different to an animal. See, Prabhupada always says that we also do the same activities that an animal does, which is we also eat, we mate, we want a comfortable place to live in, and we defend ourselves. So what is the difference? The difference is if we inculcate, if we get these qualities. And what are the qualities and qualifications? Is that everyone should become a devotee of the Lord. Because by becoming a devotee of the Lord, we will automatically acquire the other qualities. And what are the other qualities? There are good qualities. If you read the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, we have a chapter on the divine and the demoniac qualities. And Krishna describes the various qualities, how one has to be tolerant, one has to be humble, various many qualities of the divine, and he describes the qualities of the demoniac. We are only focusing on the divine because we want to become devotees of the Lord. Now, Krishna says that you don't have to separately, kind of work towards developing these qualities. Because as soon as you become a devotee of the Lord, automatically all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods will just manifest in the devotee. However, if he has no devotion, then there will be no good qualification. This is what Krishna says. Okay, so so the point is that while we are doing our Vishesh Dharma, we are also focusing on our Sadharan Dharma, which is to become devotees of the Lord or bring Krishna in the center, right? And then the third kind of dharma, which Prabhupada talks about in the purport, and he actually kind of says that, and I will just read that part where he says, he talks about apad dharma. Now, apad means, you must have heard, apad means emergency. Apatkalin means emergency situation. So what happens in an emergency situation? But Prabhupada says in the purport that people following the principles of devotional service to the Lord can never be put into difficulty. And thus there cannot be any question of apat dharma or religion in distress, which is very interesting. You know, in other places in the Bhagavatam, in the Purport, Prabhupada does talk about this. And I'll tell you in Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, verse 16. Earlier I said 18, it's Chapter 17. In the Purport, Prabhupada talks about this, right? He says, in the scriptures, there is mention of apat dharma or occupational duty at times of extraordinary happenings. It is said that sometimes the great sage Vishwamitra had to live on the flesh of dogs in some extraordinary dangerous position. In cases of emergency, one may be allowed to live on the flesh of animals of all description, but that does not mean that there should be regular slaughterhouses to feed the animal eaters, and that this system should be encouraged by the state. No one should try to live on flesh in ordinary times simply for the sake of the palate. Okay, so here Prabhupada is actually describing a situation of apat dharma, and he's giving us an example of the great sage Vishwamitra. So there may be times where there may be emergency situations, and in emergency situations, in other places, the discussion is also that one can leave one's own swadharma and take to another swadharma, because at times it may happen that although, you know, I am a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya, but because of what is the external environment, the external situations, I may not be able to follow the dharma of my swadharma, like the dharma of a Brahmana or a Kshatriya. At that time, I am allowed. So these are apat times, you know, emergency times. So we are allowed to do other dharmas is what. But in this purport, Prabhupada is clearly saying that somebody who's following the principles of devotional service, he will never be put into difficulty. And what he's trying to say here, it's not like these are contradictory statements. What he's trying to say here is that a devotee in all circumstances, because he's so surrendered to Krishna and he has taken shelter, stable shelter, you know, so he does not worry about situations, external situations. He still remains and he is still attached to his own dharma and continues to fulfill that because he's not worried. You know, he has complete faith and trust in the shelter that is being given by Krishna, like that. Okay, so this was a little bit of discussion of verse 18. Verse 19, it's actually just question about creation, and creation will be discussed in detail in the further verses, so I'm not really going into that at all. And then verse 20. So in verse 20, Parikshit Maharaj is actually asking about various mystic qualities that Yogeshwaras and great munis and yogis may display, right? Obviously, when we go deeper into it, Prabhupada also explains that, you know, as devotees, we don't need any kind of yogi, and we don't need any kind of siddhis. However, you know, if we just talk about some siddhis that we have seen, you know, some, I don't want to go into detail of stories, but just, you know, just some examples that we've seen in our Shastras. And I'm going to ask you all, so you can participate. Who had the siddhi of becoming smaller than the smallest? Do you remember any pastime and who became really, really small? Anybody remembers?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes.
Was that Hanumanji? Hanumanji?
Yes. Can you briefly tell us the pastime when Hanumanji became smaller than the smallest?
I think when he was crossing the ocean,
Yes.
then a demon came and she opened her mouth and he became very small. She said, "Come into my mouth," and went in and came back.
Yes. So Hanumanji showed us this kind of siddhi where he became smaller than the smallest, right? Then we have another, I mean, even Hanumanji also showed us the siddhi where he became very, very large. But there's another pastime where somebody came really small and then suddenly showed us the siddhi of becoming very huge. Does anybody remember that pastime? We've discussed it many times on this forum.
No, that can't be.
No?
Can't be Vamandev.
I think
Yeah, Correct. So Vaman Dev, he came as a dwarf, to Bali Maharaj. And when obviously he asked for these boons and he asked for the 3 steps of land. And then within no time, he became huge, right? So big that with just 2 steps of land, he had covered the entire universe. In this particular purport, Prabhupada is talking about how Durvasa Muni, he was a Yogeshwara. He had all the siddhis, all the mystic siddhis. Maharaj Ambarish did not have any siddhis. But what happened in that pastime? It was the Lord who protected Maharaj Ambarish. Durvasa Muni, even with all his siddhis, even with all the powers that he had, finally he had to come back to Maharaj Ambarish and ask him for protection and ask forgiveness from him, right? And then, Prabhupada writes here that Maharaj Ambarish was a pure devotee of the Lord, and thus without any effort on his part, the Lord saved him from the wrath of Yogeshwar Durvasa Muni. So, although Durvasa Muni had so many great siddhis, still that did not really serve him in any way. And that is why I remember reading so many of Prabhupada's lectures where he talks about these siddhis and he says these are all useless. What is the point if these siddhis do not take you finally to the goal of devotional service to Krishna? So think about this, that how high is devotional service to Krishna, and how fortunate are all of us that by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we all in our lives have got this opportunity to perform devotional service. Please remember that when we talk about devotional service, all devotional service is equal, and Krishna looks at everything equally. However, in Kali Yuga, what we have been asked to do, and the greatest service that we can do, and the Yuga Dharma of Kali Yuga, is obviously chanting the holy names of the Lord. So chanting the holy names is very, very, it's just the easiest, the safest, and the best service that we can perform to the Lord. And we are so fortunate that we all have the opportunity to perform this devotional service to Krishna. There's no qualification needed. There's no time, place, circumstance. There's no external factors that can affect this service of yours. And so we all should actually take to it, and constantly be performing this service. Anyways, then Prabhupada in the purport also talks about Draupadi's situation. And we all know this pastime of Draupadi, where, Draupadi, she is being disrobed in the court, and nobody is able to protect her. We've got great Kshatriyas, we've got great personalities like Bhishma, Drona, her 5 husbands, Yudhishthira Maharaj, Arjuna, the greatest archer. We've got Bhima, such strong and great personalities, but nobody was able to protect her at that time. And the moment she raised her hands and called out to Krishna for protection, then she was provided with an unlimited supply of saris, right? So that she didn't know any siddhis. She was just like Prabhupada says. He says, Draupadi knew nothing of mystic powers. She didn't have any mystic powers. So the devotees we all are Yogeshwaras. How? Just with the unlimited power of the Lord. And Prabhupada gives this very wonderful analogy that a child is powerful by the strength of the parents. The child, he has full faith in his parents. He does not worry about anything because he knows that his parents will protect him. And likewise, devotees have the faith that Krishna will protect them. That protection may come in various forms. Sometimes we don't understand how the protection comes, but we have to maintain the faith that Krishna is always looking after us and is always protecting us, without a doubt, right? So this was from purport of verse 20. And Prabhupada also talks about the Bhagavad Gita, verse 15.15, where he says that the whole idea of any Vedic knowledge is just to understand Krishna. That's the whole thing. There's nothing else more to that. So we just have to become servants of the Lord. We just have to constantly perform our dharma as human beings. We've got our dharma. However, it is only as human beings that we are given the intelligence to understand what our Sanatan Dharma is, which is to perform devotional service, and we should not miss this opportunity. In the verse 18 purport, Prabhupada says, and I will just repeat this because it's a very, very strong statement. Prabhupada says, he says, even the animals may be included in devotional service, right? Even the animals. And then he goes on to talk about how, by the guidance of Narad Muni, the hunter in the jungle became the most enlightened devotee of the Lord. Does anybody know which hunter is being spoken about here in this purport? I'm sure you all know.
Was it Migrari, Mataji?
Sorry?
Migrari?
Sorry.
Yes, so it was Migrari, how that hunter, just because of the guidance that he received from Narad Muni, just because he took shelter of an exalted devotee of the Lord, from such a dangerous hunter, he became somebody who was not even willing to hurt the ant. Right? So all of us also, if with faith, we take shelter of a devotee of the Lord, we also can become devotees of the Lord. And that way we can actually achieve the final goal that is meant for all of us in this human form of life. So I will stop here. And if there are any comments or questions, or maybe some realizations, if anybody would like to share. Okay, we have a very, whenever I ask for realizations, everybody goes really quiet. You know, it's nice to share realizations. If you read this, probably some of you read it.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So
Yes.
can I just ask you something on dharma?
On dharma, yes.
I find that quite confusing because at times people think of dharma as a religion. Then they say your dharma is your duties that you have to do as your family towards your cities or towards whoever is around you. And dharma is also, as you say, it's an inherent quality, which I think that is the main thing. But at times I find it difficult as a person. What is my inherent quality? I find it difficult to correlate, to see where my dharma is and what I should be doing. I know it's a question, but
No, the thing is, I'll tell you what, it says, and Prabhupada actually says it, and some of our acharyas repeat that, you know, in the English language, we don't really have the exact or the correct explanation of dharma. You know, and it says if you see in the English dictionary, I think it says dharma is religion, but dharma is not just that, because I'll tell you why. And Prabhupada says this. He says that a religion of a person actually can change. Let's say that I was born in say a Christian family, and you know, I grew up as a Christian, but whenever I choose to, I can actually convert to, let's say, Buddhism, or I could take Sanatana Dharma, or so. In that sense, religion, if you say religion, it is change. It can change. However, when you look at the term dharma in Sanskrit and you understand the actual word, dharma means that it is something that is inherent to you. It cannot really change. You know, and that's why Prabhupada gives the example of a salt. You really cannot take the saltiness away from a salt. You know, so in your case, Pratibha Mataji, what I will say dharma is, and I'll tell you this, we all have to go within and see what my inherent nature is. Many a times, you know, in India especially, dharma would be like the son of a brahmana is a brahmana, the son of a kshatriya is a kshatriya. But Prabhupada says this, and even Krishna says this in the Gita, that, you know, Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagasha. It is by guna and by your karma. So guna means your nature, what you have inherited, maybe by your past. We can't take away the fact that our past karma actually will influence what is happening to me today, right?
Yes.
In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that let's say somebody has taken to devotional service and he does not complete it. So in the next life, he will be born in a family of spiritualist, or he will be born in an aristocratic family. When I first read this verse, right, when I was a neophyte, I still am, but when I first, like, now I have little understanding, which I have got from the senior devotees, I started questioning that on one side, we're talking about, not having material attachments. And then on the other side, why are we talking about being born in an aristocratic family? But the point is being made that because of your good karmas in the past, you will be born in an aristocratic family where you don't have to struggle for meeting your day-to-day needs. So that way you get enough time to perform your spiritual activities. So what I'm coming to is that your karma obviously influences whatever you are, but your inherent nature, that is something that you have to identify. And in today's day and age, what is happening is we are actually becoming like animals, where we just follow, without questioning, is this what I really enjoy doing? Is this what my nature is? Is this where I will thrive? And invariably, what is happening is because we don't question all these things before we just follow, you will see that a lot of people in their 20s or 30s or late, early 40s or whatever, are dissatisfied. However, if right from childhood or teenage, one is actually taught to, not follow people just blindly, but think what I like, what I am good at, what I will thrive in, my life will be much more happy, because what will happen is I will choose to do something that is inherently my nature, inherently my dharma, and so hopefully I will thrive in it. If I thrive in it, I will be happy. So to look for what is your inherent nature is something that every individual has to search themselves. Now, there are various tools that one can use. And in today's day and age, there are loads of tools available, but if you look at from our scriptures also, and you read, you understand how Krishna is guiding you, you take shelter of, senior devotees and gurus, and they're actually able to kind of, point out that, Prabhu, maybe, you probably, the way I see you, your nature is that you will be good at this, or you like this, and you will thrive in this devotional service. So why don't you take that? And that way you will identify your own nature and dharma.
Yeah.
I've kind of observed that. I've seen that in myself. So this is what I'm not an authority on this.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Any other comments?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Oh,
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
go next, Mataji. I'll let the other Mataji go first.
I'm not sure who spoke.
I spoke. Namrata Mataji, continue. I will speak later. Thank you.
Okay, Mataji, thank you. Hare Krishna. I think, Mataji, a little bit of a reflection and maybe just follow-up question from the previous Mataji. I mean, you explained it really well, Mataji, first of all. You're very clear. And maybe just one or two quick questions. So, Mataji, when we say dharma, the way I understood it was it is also part of our responsibilities or duties, being a mother, being a daughter-in-law or a wife, etc. And then the other part of the dharma is also, like you said, what am I good at? As in, like you said, the skills and stuff that I can use in my day-to-day, because that is the quality, like the salt quality is to be salty. So then the other side of it is applying that dharma, whether it's at my professional life or my work life or, sorry, what am I talking? Professional life, or even in my day-to-day house. Did I understand that correct, Mataji?
Yes, that is correct, because see, one of the aspects of dharma is also your occupational duty. So when we are talking about occupational duty, and that is why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says it is better to fail at your own duty rather than trying to perform somebody else's duty.
Sure.
He says that in the Gita, right? So thus it is important to, and how will you understand what your occupational duty is unless you understand what your inherent nature is? So everything is really interlinked like that, And so when you understand, when we were young, I don't know how it is done here. I can't remember what that test was called. but it was in school, we were given this kind of, what was it called?
Personality test, Mataji?
It wasn't a personality test, but it was a kind of, because that kind of helped us to choose our, various fields of study. Because when we were growing up in India, in school, we had all the subjects. And then in college, you chose streams and especially in college in those days, at least, we only had like 3 major streams: arts and science and commerce.
Commerce, yes.
So when we took these tests, I can't remember the name of it, but I remember doing it. So that kind of gave you broadly what inherently you're good at. Those questions were tailored in such a way that, by seeing the answers, the trained the trained people who came to take these tests would be able to guide you that you will thrive in the field of so and so. So maybe it'll be good for you. Now, whether everybody followed it or no, I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is, we do have those kind of, I don't know, psychosomatic test, you call it, not exactly personality, but we do have those kind of analysis which kind of tells you what you will be good at. And inherently also you will know. And then I'll tell you what happens. It's important to know this, because you also need to know what my goals from a career or a job is. There are a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong in it. There are a lot of people who want to be in a career which will give them the maximum money. There are some people who want to be in a career which will give them maximum job satisfaction. So there are so many different, so this is inherent nature of every individual, and if we are not able to cater to that, then somewhere down the line, they are going to be dissatisfied and unhappy. So like you said that, yes, we have our roles and responsibilities. And like I said, Vishesha Dharma is, I am fulfilling my role as a wife, as a mother, as a whatever. But I should never, ever forget that my biggest and most important dharma is to think of Krishna all the time and never forget him. Most important dharma.
Haribol. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Rupa Mataji, if you're still there. Okay, I'm not sure if Rupa Mataji is with us or she has left. Okay, I think she's not there. All right, so if there are no other questions, then, Rupa Mataji, you're there?
Hare Krishna, yeah, I just dropped out.
Yes, Madhu.
To the internet. Yeah. Yeah, I have a question as well. I didn't hear it from the beginning. I just switched on after maybe 10 minutes. So I don't know, is like devotional service, my question is, why is devotional service not a special dharma, and why is it sadharan? Because sadharan is like, we will categorize sadharan as second class, isn't it? And special is like very
so when I
nice.
first started,
Yeah,
this is exactly what I explained, that in this, when you take in relation to this particular verse, what Prabhupada and what Sukadev Goswami is trying to explain, and what Prabhupada is trying to explain to us, is that when he's saying sadharan, what he means is that this is common to everybody, common to each and every living entity. When you read in the purport, he talks about not just human beings, he says even animals can perform devotional service, right? He says even cannibals can perform devotional service. See, when you talk about special or vishesh, only some people can do things. Like, let's say, Rajadharma is a vishesh. It's a special service that only a king can perform. I cannot, because I'm not the king, right? Pati dharma, only a husband can perform. Patni dharma, only a patni can perform. Grihastha, brahmachari, you are put in these pockets wherein you can perform the dharma of that particular pocket that you're in. However, sadharan, meaning a common dharma for all of them, which goes across all the board, whether you're a grihastha, brahmachari, pati, patni, king, cannibal, animal, whatever you are, devotional service is the common factor to all of us. And that is why when you understand it in this context, it is called the sadharan. Is that clear?
Yeah. Yeah, now I got it. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, I think I should stop now. It is 10 to 9. So yeah, thank you all for coming. Thank you very much.
Vanchakalpatarubhascha कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Okay, Jai. Thank you, Mataji. Very nice class.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.